are the extension of the quality of an ideal partner. And number one is actually you must have, to start with, you must not get your family life or your togetherness being a boring kind of a situation. So both possibly have to have what we call a sense of humor. So it's very important to have that sense of humor, a healthy one, so that each and every one of us, the couple, feel that we are really close to each other because of that sense of humor. No such thing as people are so quiet. No such thing as the couple or the spouse is actually not really communicating as much. So this is very important. The other quality I think is being flexible, and being flexible is easygoing kind of a couple, right? And an open-minded couple, not rather rigid, not rather having their own way only, so they can give and take. As what I said, marriage is about tolerance. So to be tolerant, you have to be flexible, right? So that you can move around, you can maneuver very well, being a flexible person rather than being a rigid person. And also parenting in this sense together when the child is growing up, I think you need to attune to each other very well. The mom and the dad attune to each other very well, listen to each other very well, and the parents, the father and the mother, also listen well to the children. I think this is very important. If we are not actually somehow the communication breaks down, obviously when the communication is break down, there will be a lot of things unresolved. A lot of time we thought that not talking or not communicating could be the best way to handle the problem, but unless we deal with it in a very cordial manner, we talk to each other, we listen to each other, then the problem, whatever issue that is there, can be solved. If not, it will just lingers around. It may go for long years without actually clearing up the problem. And the problem about relationship, about personality, is that all of us are carrying a lot of baggages, which we sometimes before marriage we already have got some. Then during marriage, we may add it on to all those old baggages. These new baggages may be also rather negative in quality. So when we are not actually, open-minded with each other, we are not listening to each other well. We don't really communicate with each other well. So we may go on our life carrying a lot of baggages, and subsequently, these
Yeah,
baggages will go down.
I can't hear.
Okay, sorry, you can't hear. Uh, can someone silent the other? Okay, who is the one who cannot hear? Sorry. All right, can you hear now? Hello? Can you hear? Can someone respond? Are you all hearing me well?
Yeah, we can hear you well. I think I see.
Okay, are you hearing me well, everyone?
Sweating right now. Oh, okay. So how do I?
How about others? Are you hearing me well?
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, good. All right, let me just move on with the parent qualities, yeah? Is it okay for me to move on? Hello, Dr. Siva,
Okay,
you are in
doctor.
already.
Okay, doctor.
Am I mute?
I'm here.
All right, Dr. Siva, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us. Okay, so I was in this element of parent qualities. So we're talking about, sense of humor, being flexible, open-mindedness, and a good listener, and qualities in the sense of individual
Oh,
father and mother, husband and wife are actually showing a very good model for each other. They actually good example to each other, and subsequently become a good example to the children. I think this is very important about being a parent. You have to show a good example. Whatever that is going on, try in any situation, if the so-called our behavior is not really that conducive for the parent, for the children to see anything that happens within the couple. So it's good to actually do it in privacy and not in front of the children, because the children will learn from what they can see with us, right? And then subsequently, I would say good parenting qualities will be one of them is actually empower the children to be who they are, giving the children their time, allow the children to grow themselves. So the parent is basically just assist the children. But on top of that, actually, both the couple also must empower each other. They must give room and space for the husband or the wife to actually be who they are, and then we can appreciate them very well without having any judgment towards some of the shortcoming that they have, right? So I think we need to understand both the parties, and subsequently we need to also get the children to be empowered to be who they are. Subsequently, obviously, in the family, we need to have limits, we need to have boundaries, we need to have structure. So in this case, obviously, the father will be the chief, the captain. As I said, I'm using this cap, the captain cap. And on top of that, the assistants must be from the wife. And sometimes the wife can be the captain in other areas, example, the home areas, in other aspects of thing in the family life. The wife can be the captain. Then the husband become the assistant captain, and then the role can be vice versa in specific areas which they are very good at, you know. Subsequently, then with regard to that, we should also have what we call the limit and the boundaries to the children. As like before, Dr. Shakir keep telling us about how we need to, discipline the children not to be over indulged in gaming, in basically, doing things overboard without, having any restrictions. So this is very important about setting limits and boundaries. Because nowadays we notice that children is really living on their own, even within the house. There is a house, but obviously there is not much of a home. There is people in together. There we are in contact, but we are not having connection. So these are the issues that is going on because we don't really communicate very well. Yeah, and the structure get disrupted. And subsequently, obviously, altruism is the highest level of personal achievement, whereby everybody feel good about themselves, everybody feel that they have reached their best element of self-psychology, spiritually, that actually they achieve that. That is the highest level of personal, social well-being, altruism. And subsequently, being very supportive is very important. You have to prepare anything, everything for the children. So you need to support. You need to give the children the academic part of it. You need to support the social aspect of it. You need to support the other element in terms of whatever that the children need to live. Remember that I see the children have 9 multiple intelligence in each and every one of us, including the children. These 9 multiple intelligence include the intellectual, the IQ, intellectual intelligence. In IQ, we got 3 intelligence. We got the verbal linguistic intelligence. We got the math logic intelligence, and we got the visual spatial intelligence. And this part is usually being covered very well in the classes, in the school, and subsequently also being much more focused by the family. But on top of that, there are other 6 intelligences that we need to actually harness. We need to get them grow up to the level together, reaching the highest peak for each and every intelligence. Example, the EQ, we have 2 intelligence there, the intrapersonal intelligence and the interpersonal intelligence. So if we can actually support them to build up their intelligences, that would be fine, because the self-smart and the people smart, they need to be knowing who they are, and they also need to be knowing how to deal with people around them for survival, for relationship, and for good communication. And then we have the other intelligence. One is the body kinesthetic intelligence, or the physical quotient, or the physical intelligence, knowing how to look after their body very well, not to actually cause trouble to themselves with regard to their body being unwell, being diseased, having into illness. So that's where health and fitness comes in. And that's also in the field of what we call our coach Francis and Felicia will be actually talking about in terms of that aspect. Subsequently, we have what we call the spiritual intelligence. It's with regard to the reason why we are here, who we are, what is our purpose, the so-called the existential intelligence. So this is the SQ. So we got the IQ, we got the PQ, we got the EQ, and we got the SQ. And subsequently, we got 2 more other intelligence that we need to learn so that we can develop in our children. One is that the nature intelligence, whereby the children and ourselves know how to look after our environment, know how to look after our so-called nature so that we don't destroy our nature or we don't disturb our environment. And if that is the case, the balance within us, the harmonious balance between us and the environment is not disrupted. I think once it is disrupted, obviously we are not going to live very well. As you can see now, the climate change, the weather, and all those so-called disasters are coming in quite seriously because of non-nature intelligence in such a way. But in a very micro level, it is within us and within around us, that is immediate around us, is very important too. So that is the nature's intelligence. And the last intelligence that each and every one of us is supposed to harness is the right brain intelligence, whereby it is about creativity, it's about talent, it's about performance, it's about the way we have within us that we don't realize and we don't actually push it out forward. Example, the musical talent, the ability to perform in performing arts and whatnot. So those kind of thing is very important. So these are the 9 multiple intelligence that we need to actually develop in our children. But before we can develop in our children, we must be well equipped with the knowledge, and we must also know our natural intelligence, our so-called intelligences that we have. Are they also properly developed or not? That's why I believe to be a person, to be a parent later, we need to continuously have what we call the continuous education. So remember, we are all in the stage of learning until death do us stop our learning. So I think there is no way that we can actually think that we have already concluded our learning. And subsequently, obviously, you must have what we call in the family, the so-called the creativity outlet, the physical outlet. You must get prepared, the family, to have all those possible outlets that they can have. And to do that, obviously, mom and dad or father and mother and the couple must be strong enough in terms of their social economic standing, in terms of their so-called ability to be within the environment that they are in. To do that, obviously, they must have the inner strength before they can actually withstand the external situation that could be very challenging. So, if the parent can create, can provide this outlet, that would be very good, and the child will go very well. And I think again, I think Felicia and Francis can actually add on with this part of it, whereby to look after our body very well, obviously, we have to have a very good lifestyle and also eating habits. So a healthy eating habit is very important. So much so that, as you know, right now, obesity, hypertension, mental problems among the young are all actually developing quite now seriously in the numbers. So if we are not actually putting things correctly in our body, obviously our body will be undermined and we may end up with having trouble. So eating habit and subsequently the physical fitness is the thing that we need to look at. And I think later maybe Francis and Felicia can actually, or even Dr. Narain, Dr. Siva can add on to all this. Yeah. So I hope we will get this kind of sharing so that the other listener can also learn and get our so-called experience from us. So it's usually about the motherhood. This is the Donna Ball talking about what motherhood is all about, right? Despite you actually so-called sacrifice yourself for the happiness of others. I think that is what mother is all about. They really give everything to their child. They want to give as much as possible, even though they are in pain, even though they know that they might not doing it right, even though they know that sometimes things doesn't go the way they want it to be, but they still put their children's more important than their own self. I think that's what we know about mother. I think the father also will have the same, because once they have the child, obviously they will focus more towards the child rather than for themselves. As you know, mom and dad usually doesn't buy their baju first, doesn't go and make themselves as number one important once they have the child. Usually the child will be the priority, the child will be the number one in their eyes. So, and fatherhood too. Fatherhood will be actually mom will do the part, father will do his part, and father is about actually holding the child hand and showing them, walk with them, show them the way, lead the way, rather than just imposing on them what they are supposed to do. This is about motherhood and fatherhood. So now we are talking about contemporary parenting and parenthood. So obviously, it might be different than the old traditional parenting and parenthood. Now we got more changes in our life, in our environment. So it's getting more and more contemporary. We need to know what they are. We need to know how our parents last time, maybe like for me, now I'm in my 60s, obviously, during my mom and dad time looking after me when I was a child, it's much more different than I'm looking after my child now. So that's obviously there's a change in the parenthood. There are four parenting style. Obviously, if you can see this table on the left, we talk about being a demanding parent, or the other opposite is couldn't be bothered kind of parent, doesn't enforce any limit, and on the other y-axis or on the x-axis is being a sensitive or responsive parent as compared to the n being a stern and punitive parent. So you can end up either in the first quadrant, they become an authoritative parent who are actually demanding, but also sensitive and responsive, or you can be authoritarian parent who are demanding and then also on top of that being stern and punitive. Whereby if you go to the third and the fourth quadrant, so obviously if the parent doesn't even have any limits, doesn't enforce any limit, couldn't be bothered, indifferent attitude toward the children, so obviously being a sensitive and responsive but not having any enforcement, they become a permissive parent. They just let the child be whatever they want to be. And this can also happen actually not in term parenting style alone, it can also in terms of uh, the couple themselves. They should be actually able to look at each other and realize this part of it, being together as husband and wife. And subsequently, if they couldn't be bothered, but they just want to enforce the rules, being punitive, so obviously they can be so uninvolved. They just want to see what they want to see, the result. And this kind of a parent, obviously, we also see and how at the end of the day later the children develop from all these four parenting styles. So as you know, being an authoritative parent, obviously they make the child more enabling, more flexible in the sense they give guideline, they are supportive with each other, and they actually teach assertiveness, right? They also teach the child to be able to regulate themselves, and they are warm and very supportive. So these are the authoritative parent, which is actually the one which is demanding, but also sensitive towards the child emotion and responsive toward the child. So this is a very good one. As compared to being authoritarian, obviously you use punishment, you are very rigid, you just seek obedience from the child. This can happen also authoritarian between husband and wife. Yeah, so you can just ask the wife to just follow you. You're quite actually very stern and rigid, unnecessary. You are the boss. You give directives. You say you are very autocratic and whatnot. So what happened if it is on the lower quadrant? Obviously, if you are not involved, obviously you don't care, you neglect, you remain distant. And if you are permissive, you are letting the child to do a lot of things that is possibly ending up with bad effect. And also you are actually sometimes can be over involved, right? You don't show any guidance and whatnot. So I think these are the parenting style that we need to know. And people are talking about that, disparaging that parenting style. 67% of the respondents were talking about the discipline part of it. Maybe they were not happy about how the dads put up their way of disciplining the child. And also 32% wanted talking about not paying attention or being rough to the children, and 43% possibly talk about the diet and the nutrition, whereby maybe the father did not really bother about how the child's growing with regard to what they eat and the lifestyle that they have. So in summary, the authoritarian will develop a child who become unsociable, unfriendly, withdrawn, but the permissive one will lead the child to be immature, moody, dependent, and low self-control. The authoritative will lead to a very good social skill child, a very reliant and very independent child. And the uninvolved will lead to a child who is actually indifferent, undisciplined, and having a so-called antagonistic behavior. They won't be able to follow so-called any kind of a ruling because they were never being shown how to be with people around them. So importantly also we need to know how much is the nature component of it and how much is the nurture component. Nature is what comes in from within the genetic so-called predisposition. Then how the actually how the mom's genes, how the dad gene actually being brought down to the child. So that is very important. So with regard to the appearance, does it look like mom? Does it look like child? With regard to the biological influences, and how much is the gene component towards the child? How much is from the mom and how much is from the dad? But with regard to the nurture, obviously the environment, the upbringing, the social influence are very important. And you must know that actually nurture oversees the nature, because if nurturing is well done, even though a bad genes, a bad biological kind of things that they have, it can always be overturned because the nurturing is the one that is powerful and it goes on for years, nurturing. Remember, child, we have to nurture them until the age of 20 to be a better person before it has developed into what we call their personality. So between nature and nurture, we have got a lot of studies in psychology. If a twin, and one twin has been actually staying with the parent and the parent are not well, not good to this child, obviously the child won't turn out to be good. But if the other twin that has been with another new family who are very positive, very conducive, this so-called other child, which share the 50% gene from the other twin, will actually turn out to be different than the one that stays in the old home, in the parents' home. So these are things that we need to actually take note. Obviously, as I said again, this one is talking about the environment, the surrounding, the way we actually develop them, the way they learn through the experiences and whatnot. But again, as I said, all of us have the genes and the hereditary factor and the personality traits, they call it. But we can only suppress those bad traits and just put up a good trait if we are in a very nice environment that is nurturing us very well. So because all of us will have the good and the bad traits, the opposite of each trait together, whether we like it or not, is always there, right? If we are kind, we can also be cruel, but it is how we want to portray ourselves, to be kind all the time or to be cruel, or to be cruel as our mainstay of our personality. So usually that triggers out based on the environment, based on the people who push you or pull you to which side it can be. Yeah? All right, and usually people are talking about physical appearance. It always come generally determined by the father in terms of the height, but in terms of intelligence, it is determined by the mother. Intelligence, emotional strength, and also the body shape. But I think it is not 100% true, obviously. But I would say this could be, in a way, there is some points to that. And the child, when the child was born, I think we need to see this child, how how this child grows up. There are three types of temperament in the child. One, it could be an easy child, and that's where we say, the child is not really disturbing, distressed so much. Mom can actually have a good rest. The child is very compliant. The child doesn't really cause trouble even at the age of 1. So we call it as a very good temperament, the easy temperament, non-disturbing temperament and whatnot. The second temperament for a child can be a very difficult one, a feisty child in that sense. Usually it's about 10%. The earlier one, the easiest one, can be about 40% of most of the children. And the difficult one can be about 10%. This can be seen even as young as 1 year old, and subsequently. But again, I would say these are all based on, as I said, the traits are there, but how the environment was within them, around them, in the family. So it is actually determined by how we paint them, how we actually make them to be who they are at that point of time. And the third temperament is about the slow to warm up or the fearful child. This is rather the anxious child, or what we call in a very early stage. Sometimes we can see this neurotic kind of a child who actually not sure about themselves, who actually become low self-esteem, low self-confidence. It might not be seen as an easy child earlier. It could be seen as a child who cries a lot in the younger age at 1 year old or so, and then subsequently the child develop more and more neurotic kind of a trait. So these are the temperament that we need to look at. So the children temperament, obviously the easy one, these are the nature, they become very positive, they establish their routine very well in infancy, they adapt so easily to any kind of experience. While the difficult one obviously will be negative, will be very difficult to actually flow with their routine and to accept any changes. And the slow to warm up may somewhat show negativity, having some kind of issues with regard to activity and with regard to the mood. So these are the effect of the three types of temperament. So families are like branches on a tree. Right? We grow in different direction, yet our root remain as one. So if mom and dad already have decided and committed to be what kind of a family, to be what kind of a parent, and how to actually collaborate and cooperate with each other and committed to get it work done very well, I think then it is a very clear path that we can be done. If mom and dad wasn't so sure about being a parent and somehow get stuck with all those daily problems that they have, mom and dad can't even settle their own things, obviously the children will not be able to settle well because mom and dad still are not well actually get over with whatever their issues are before they can become a parent. So it is very important about families. They need to be able to be rooted so strongly. And everyone need a house to live in, but most important, the family must be supportive, right? Because that's what build a home. A house is there, a person can be around. As I said, obviously a lot of people have people around them. They have what we call these so-called contacts, but there is no connection. There is a house, but there is no home. There is a family, but there is a disrupted one. So these are the issues that we need to understand, and we can actually see quite a number of kids that at the end of the day ending up in their adolescent, in their young adulthood, having trouble because somehow the nurture part in their life and living within the home is possibly having some kind of a disruption. So basically that is about my slide. Okay, I would then actually unshare this slide now so that we can have what we call a discussion with regard to what transpired at this moment over the last half an hour or so. Okay then, if I may, uh, can we just then go on with the discussion? Maybe any one of you can just start the discussion going. All right, thank you so much for being a good listener. Okay, anyone want to chip in with regard to this discussion? Yeah, maybe you can start with Dato' Norain. You want to add on something there? Or Dr. Siva? Or even Francis and Felicia? Hello?
Prof. You
Yeah,
have
Dr.
said,
Siva.
you
Yeah.
have said, you have said quite a lot, and they're all actually very accurate and sensible. That and these are things that we see daily, lah, in our parenting, in our
Yes,
parenting
yes.
life. Yeah, nothing much to actually add on. Perhaps somebody else will have more to say.
Maybe you can share us your experience on how you actually see how parenthood is all about, how you do your own your parenting, so that quite a number of our juniors here, Nurin, Aziza Tul, and I think a few others listening to us, maybe they can also learn from us.
Yeah, basically, okay.
Yeah, Francis.
Dato, go ahead.
Okay, Dato'.
Okay, basically, let me just share some point.
Yeah.
I think, well, after going through this presentation, I realized that even my time, we were quite blindly going through parenting. So actually, thank goodness for many parents being role model. So actually, we actually mix a lot of people. Then we see how their kids behave. Then they share a bit of their so-called experience in their child growing stages. So we pick up along that way. We actually by a lot of trial and errors.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I realized that it's so important actually to really has to go through the parenting aspect, so that our offspring or our kids are grown up with less so-called dysfunction. Is it?
True, true.
We are more or less actually dysfunction, but how much of degree that's all.
Yes,
So
true.
actually, very I mean, interesting in the sense that this piece of the knowledge and information is so important, which need to be promoted. I obviously I see that important it is. So it's good that we have this session. So I would like to actually come up with some suggestion that we can actually organize some workshop on
Yes, yes. True.
parenting. Yeah, very important. So for me, my my father is a very authoritative person.
Mm-hmm.
Anything goes wrong, it's me. It's not other people.
Okay.
So I was handled nice, very roughly, you know. So then thank goodness that along the way we have attend a lot of so-called personal development and motivation. This actually has made me understand, why I was like that.
Yes.
Why I became like that? It's actually a byproduct of what during our childhood. So I realized that if a person behave so weird or so we must be more forgiving. We must more empathy to them
Yeah.
and understand that they were brought up in such traumatic
Yeah.
way. So then probably we can actually suggest that there's need a counseling session for this kid and also
Yes.
the parent.
True.
I think that prompts me after that hearing this session, I realized that there is an important role for us, for everyone to play now.
It
Otherwise,
is.
otherwise the kids actually are the loser,
Yeah.
and they are the future leader, again. So it's so important. Yep.
True.
Thanks so much, Prof, for sharing.
Yeah.
And I pass it on to anybody who want to share. Thank
I think
you.
Dato' Nurain wanted to say something. Can you just try it out again in terms
Yeah.
of your audio?
Can
Yeah,
you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for very good lecture. Well, parenting is very difficult to me, and having 4 children, they are all different. So I think parenting also need to be adjusted accordingly to each of them because they are different.
Yeah, true.
So that's the point that I learned in my experience.
Mm. It's basically you cannot use the same mold for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own uniqueness. Everyone actually need to have their own different customized mold for them. Because the next week I'll be talking about child upbringing. Obviously, we need to see that the difference between the first child as then to the compare with the second child, the third child, and possibly the youngest in the family. They will never be the same. It is not the same because we ourselves are not consistent enough to be the same,
Mm.
obviously, because
Yeah.
we got so many what we call the push and pull factor within us. So obviously because of that, we can actually, in a way, we tried our best for the first child, but subsequently it get so-called lesser and lesser focus for the subsequent child. That's why planning is very important. Strategizing when you want to get the first child, when you want to get the second child, and subsequently, I think plan the family is very important here also to take. I would say. It is not easy, obviously. All of us have been jumping into the river, into getting the marriage, then we don't know how deep the water is, and some of us can't even swim, and we're trying to actually pull ourselves out of the water before we get ourselves drowned by it. So I think, obviously, it is a trial and error, but Alhamdulillah, God is still very kind to us. They allow us to survive, and we also learn how to actually improve ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Siva, Dr. Siva, anything that you can share so that Nurin, Aziza, and the gang maybe can learn better from us? And just now I saw Najwa is there, Nurhani Najwa is also a KL student from Mestec. You all can join us if you want to. Can give your idea.
Yeah, everybody is welcome to say something. What is the one point, maybe you or one point that you have gathered from this series? It will be very interesting. There's no right or wrong answer anyway.
Yeah, don't worry. All of us
So
are
this,
actually learning. All of us are actually not perfect at all. All of us making mistakes, repeatedly making mistakes. Yeah, but you are lucky that actually we have this forum so that we can share with you all those things that we actually gone through, and you might actually be able not to do all those mistakes that we did before.
Okay, I am Azizatu. I just want to ask something because I'm not a parent. Maybe I've learned a lot from this session. I just want to ask because nowadays our upbringing is focusing on more on materialistic, and I think the environment of the student itself right now is kind of toxic. The way I see it is, children nowadays are so into branding that when they don't have the thing that their friends have, they don't have the confidence. For example, there are some issue that I've read about Smiggle brand. It's about like pencil box branding
Mm-hmm.
in primary school.
Yeah.
So some parents cannot afford this because it's kind of pricey.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to like emphasize on how to grow up a child that doesn't need that thing to really bring up herself,
Mm.
to like not materialistic but can be confidence in her or his own way.
Mm.
That is my question. Thank you.
Sure. Well, for me, the response is like this. When parents start comparing a child to someone else, that's why the child have actually developed the idea that they must be equal to others around them. So that means if the parent start saying that you must be like this person, so they thought that they must be like that person in many ways, including the materialistic ways. So this is the issue where parents didn't realize that they actually build the child, the psychology of the child to develop in such a way they doubt about themselves. They were not confident about what they have, what they should have, because they think that people will look down upon them, the peers won't accept them very well, and things of that nature because they don't have or they don't even live up to that same path. So I think these are the issues about parenting too, because remember the young age, as I said, if we were to look at the psychosocial stages of Erikson, when we develop with the 1-year-old trust versus mistrust, at 2-year-old,
I remember.
3-year-old shame with doubt versus doubt, integrity versus industrious. I mean, the child usually explore what things are. We create the child to be obsessive. We create the child to be neurotic. We create the child. So I think parents need to know that. The other thing is that the child possibly did not able to talk back or tell the parents about how they see all these things. Because of that, maybe they got it very wrong in the sense of their understanding. Let's say if the other child have what they can have, but you cannot have what you are supposed to, in the sense of understanding that you should be having it. I think these are the issues. So that's why the child put the demand on you with regard to what they want, on the parent, what they want, because they thought that is what make them happy, that is what make them somebody, that is what make them to that level of being, branded to be okay. So I think parents need to be aware of that. So I hope the rest also can share with me how you look at all these points that Aziza brought up.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah, thank
Doctor.
you, Aziza. I hope you answered the question.
Yes, it does.
Okay, how
Thank
about
you.
others? Maybe can add on. Datuk Nurain, Dr. Siva, Murti. Maybe you can
Okay,
also.
want to share,
Yeah.
right? So I have an experience on it because I'm not parent yet. So I have experience on my sister's son. Okay, I
Okay.
grow the boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when the 3 months boy. So until
Okay.
19 years old, until he going to college.
Uh-huh.
So what the parents they not doing to, I mean they don't understand his what the uniqueness of this boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I personally I talk to the boy, then I grow up the boy, then they I find out what's the strength and then what the uniqueness of the boy.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there I train the boy to study, and then they like football. Okay,
Mm.
like football. So so, so until 18 years old, now he's playing in Selangor youth team now. Selangor youth
Ah,
team.
good.
Selangor youth team. So even until now, the parents still don't want to accept that. I mean, my sister.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
So the point is it wrong I do like that? Because the boy like, the boy want that.
Mm.
So I spend the what do you call the expenses. So I do that. Okay.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
So is it wrong I'm doing? Dato?
Actually, it's not wrong at all. You become what we call the additional, the complementary part, the role to support the child, because sometimes obviously mom and dad has different perspective. Mom and dad has different things that they look at, whereby you have a different perspective. So all of us, including the uncles, including the grandparent, are actually supposed to be supportive enough for the child. It's not only the mom and dad actually. So if we notice that mom and dad might not be really doing it right, if we can afford to, why don't we help out too? Because whatever it is, if a child go astray, it doesn't bring down the parent alone, it brings down everyone else in the family, including the extended grandparent family, including the uncles and the aunts and whatnot. So I think it's okay not to be judgmental to the mom and dad in that sense. Maybe they have their own reason. Maybe they understand things differently. They have what we call the different mindset, the different perspective. We need to be accepting that too. We cannot assume or be judgmental, saying that they are all wrong.
Yeah.
But I think believe in yourself. If you think that you are doing it right, if you think that you are not actually putting that child to another negative manner, I think that is good enough because your conscience is clear. Everything that we
Yeah.
do, we need to use conscience. That is where
Because
we say, yeah, that is where we think if we believe we know and we can do something for that, why don't? Because I think uncle has a very strong actually connection to make
yeah.
matters better. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how I look at it.
Because
Yeah.
why I did this in my childhood time, whatever I like it, I tell to my dad. So I don't get it anything. My dad is a government worker.
Mm,
I mean, he working in a railway.
yeah.
So more than 42 years he's working in a railway. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand my dad's feeling. So sometimes I ask for, because I'm a marathon runner.
Ah,
So So basically, I love in the sports, and then yeah, I find out the boys' strengths, and then at the same time, so whatever I don't get it, so yes, I'm his uncle, right? So
Yeah.
I love the boy
Yes.
very
Yes.
well.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Then I make it the boy is open-minded, and at the same time, what is right, what is wrong.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
teach her that.
True. Very true. And I would to emphasize this point. This point is that basically all of us have the responsibility. It can be as close as anything to do with family. Any family member should and must actually help out. It's not only mom and dad. Subsequently, when they get married, everyone distance themselves from mom and dad in that sense.
Yeah,
If we believe that they are actually not doing it right, we should be able to tell them, or we should be able to actually collaborate with them, cooperate with them, mutually understand them and see what we can do to help out. Because I think everyone has their own problem, everyone has their own shortcoming, obviously. But it is good actually to help the family members first. Before then, we can extend our so-called, social responsibility to people around us, to a bigger group of people. It is actually, we sleep well if we note that every members of our family, including the nephews, the nieces, brothers and sisters, they are all actually also at peace. I think that will bring our conscience levels. I mean, this is what we call high altruistic or high altruism that I mentioned in a person who actually not selfish, who actually do things for others, who provide in a way whatever they can. So that is what that means just now. Altruistic nature of you is there. Yeah. So I think it is very important. Thank you.
thank you.
Congratulations
Good
for
job,
being a good.
Murthy. Keep it up.
Thank you, Francis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Anyone else who want to chip in?
Anyone? Any more question? One more question, okay? Because we are up 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
About
as I said
the
just now,
student.
okay, just want to say once I complete the last session next week about the child upbringing, I think Francis, myself, and the team, we will find a way how to conduct the short courses for all the different parts of the 4 parts. So we'll do online kind of a short courses for free, and we will cover all the holistic nature of each and every person, every parts of the person, the domain, the body, the mind, and the soul, and the environment. So in each and every of these activity, we will cover that part, and then usually we go for at least a half a day, a half a morning. Kind of a session, maybe 2 hours or so, with regard to every part that is possibly we can do in a course. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Francis.
That's great. That's great, Prof.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. So let me summarize.
Yeah.
So for those newcomers, for your information, this is e-forum Ask the Expert. So we have comprised of the medical with Dr. Siva, and psychological part by Professor Mohammed, and the changing of nutrition habits with Alicia, and fitness is me, yours truly, Francis, and also we have Dato Nur Ain, also retired pathologist, also on the medical line. So please do help us to share this link and be part of the group support, because we actually do it for free. So you can share with another person, because this is going to be a very it's a priceless information that can help a lot of people. And we hope that together we can empower the community to be better. Okay, so I would like to thank everyone, and see you next Saturday. Looking forward. please bring one more. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I
Thank
hope
you.
we can communicate to more people to join us, right? Okay, then thank you, Francis, being a host, and thank you for listening to me and listening to all of us. And hope we can actually bring it up in our YouTube later. Okay, then good
Okay,
night.
thank you, Prof. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Hi,
Good night.
thank you,
Thank you,
Paul.
Bye.
Thank
everybody.
you for
Hope
having
Everybody.
me.
everyone has a good Sunday.
Yeah, have a
So
good
stay
weekend.
safe,
Yep.
be
Stay
well.
safe. Yeah. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye. Good
Bye.
night. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Francis. Thank you, Radha Narayan.
Good
Bye.
night.